Prabhupada Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesa Sunyavadi Paskatya Desatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Bolo Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Bolo Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Hare Hare Gaur Premanande Hare Bo. Thank you very much for inviting me. I love the Delhi temple and the devotees, and especially my very, very dear friend, His Holiness Gopal Krishna Maharaj. I pray that he will have a very easy recovery and be able to continue preaching in the super excellent way that he does. Hare Krishna. So today we're going to talk about Ramanujacharya. I've written a book on this subject. So, Ramanujacharya is in the Sri Vaishnava Sampradaya. Now, Sampradayas may be different, but the truth of the absolute truth is the same. So the Sri Sampradaya is based on the idea that the Supreme Absolute Truth is Krishna. If you hear the modern Sri Vaishnava devotees, they'll say that Narayan is the source of Krishna, and Krishna is an incarnation of Lord Narayana. Now, why did they say that? It's because they have deviated from their acharyas. The fact is that if you read the Bhagavad Gita Bhasya by Sri Ramanujacharya, in the introduction, Ramanujacharya writes the following. He says, Krishna is to be known by the names of his manifestations, such as Brahman, Paramatma, and any incarnations, such as Rama and Buddha, and by any of his expansions, such as Narayana and Vasudeva. That's right in his introduction to the Bhagavad Gita Bhasya. He continues, the Supreme Lord Krishna, being an all-pervading ocean of infinite mercy, with unlimited compassion, unlimited love, and unlimited magnanimity, although completely transcendental to the material existence, simultaneously willed to incarnate in various material forms similar to those of his creation, without compromising his own divine transcendental nature, and periodically descends as different incarnations in the material world as he so desires. So here we see Ramanujacharya writing in his own introduction to his Gita Bhasya, and he clearly says that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is Lord Krishna, unequivocally. Now this is very interesting. Why? Because if you see all the modern translations of his Bhagavad Gita Bhashya, they leave out the introduction. They avoid it. Or they use an introduction by them that they write themselves. So this is willful, let's say, misinformation. And therefore, whatever Ramanujacharya said in his introduction, it's confirmed by Sukadeva Goswami. Ete jamsa kalak pumsa Krishna stu Bhagavan swayam. He says the same thing. And it says, all the lists of the incarnations of Godhead submitted herewith are either plenary expansions or parts of the plenary expansions of the Supreme Godhead, but Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srimad Bhagavatam 1.3.28. So, this is very interesting because why would one want to hide the fact that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Of course, the Sri Vaishnavas say that Krishna is a avatar of Narayana. So, is this a major problem? Not really. Narayana is not different than the Lord. But there are questions that have to be asked. So, first of all, Ramanujacharya, he emphasized what's called prapati. That means prapati, complete surrender to Lord Krishna. Just like Arjuna, in the beginning of Bhagavad Gita, he is arguing with Krishna why he shouldn't fight. And he gives very potent explanations that seem very reasonable. But Krishna doesn't accept them. Arjuna is confused, but he has a little bit of composure of his mind, and he decides to accept Krishna as a spiritual master. That is the most important decision you make in your life. Accepting a bona fide spiritual master. Of course, today there are many kangaroos and a few gurus. That's the problem. There are people who deviate from the, let's say, the absolute truth and speculate and make up their own philosophy. Just like Gandhi, he wrote a commentary on Bhagavad Gita, and his whole emphasis was that Bhagavad Gita is about nonviolence. What? Nonviolence? Are you crazy? It's all about convincing Arjuna to fight and do his duty as a Kshatriya. The Kshatriya is supposed to protect the principles of Dharma. It's just like, let's say, if you're married, and one day a dacoit comes in your house and is choking your wife. So you call the police. The policeman comes and said, "What's going on?" He said, "It's in the bedroom. This dacoit is choking my wife." He said, "Okay, don't worry." He takes out a gun and goes into the bedroom, and then he comes back and puts the gun in his pocket. And the husband said, "What happened? What happened?" He said, "Well, I went in there, but the dacoit is my brother, and I promised my mother that I will always protect him." He said, "What? Why, are you crazy? You're supposed to protect me, not your brother. Your brother's a dacoit." You see, that's not an acceptable thing. So in the same way, Arjuna was trained his whole life to be a Kshatriya, and now he's refusing to fight. Kshatriyas consider fighting and killing to be like chanting Hare Krishna. That's their dharma, right? But no, Arjuna is refusing. But he did accept Krishna as his guru, and he asked him every quintessential question that need to be answered so that a person will surrender to the Lord. If you ever met Krishna, you would not be able to ask such important questions and such detailed questions as Arjuna, because he was a highly evolved person in Krishna consciousness already. But even highly evolved people or devotees in Krishna consciousness can get confused. That's why we have what's called Shiksha and Diksha gurus. Actually, there are many, many Shiksha gurus in Iskcon. They're training people to become devotees. They have the knowledge and the faith by which they can convince someone to give up material life and take up spiritual life. Just like many of you, you're mostly young people, you have chosen voluntarily to give up material life and engage full-time 24 hours a day in spiritual life. Why? Somebody preached to you, is that right? And convinced you and showed you Bhagavad Gita as it is, yata rup, not as I want it to be or I wish it was like this, but as it is. That's why Prabhupada, before he translated Bhagavad Gita into the English language, there were at least 500 translations of Bhagavad Gita since the 16th century. Not one person became a devotee by reading all those Bhagavad Gitas. But when Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita came out, all of a sudden, thousands of people started joining the Hare Krishna movement and taking an interest in Vrindavan. In 1972, I came to Vrindavan for the first time, and I saw a small village. There were no cars. There were just tangas and rickshaws. In fact, I took the train from Delhi to Mathura, and I had to take a tanga to Vrindavan. But it was very interesting. The horse was very skinny, and the driver of the tanga was an older man, and he started singing on the way. And I think it's about maybe 5-10 miles, and it was a late afternoon, it was a sunny day, and he started singing. And I had just bought a tape recorder. They were new at that time, and I recorded his singing. And when we got out of Mathura, it was like country world, and it was very nice, and the weather was nice, and his singing was very, very sweet. I was really attracted to it. And when we arrived on the outskirts of Vrindavan, he stopped the tanga and he said, "Get off." But he spoke Hindi. I didn't understand Hindi, but he pointed like this, and he got off the tanga, and then he did full dandavat, and then he rolled over 3-4 times in the dust. So I thought maybe I should do the same thing. So I bowed down and I rolled over a couple of times in the dust. Then I realized this man, he's a tanga driver, probably been doing it his whole life, but he must be some kind of a devotee, because he is touching the dust of Vrindavan before he enters. And he's teaching me to do the same thing. So we entered, and then I went to the Krishna Balaram temple, but there was no temple. There was a construction site. The only thing that was built was Prabhupada's apartment and his Vyasa son. Everything else was in construction. So that was very interesting, but I was happy to be there. And at night, I was sleeping on a sand dune, and there was a dog next to me. All night long, he was next to me, and he had asthma, so he was, all night long I heard him like that. And but this was a special dog because he never left the compound, and when devotees would throw their plates of leaves after eating, he would go and lick the food from those leaves. And when Prabhupada gave a lecture, he would come as close as he could to hear also. So I asked someone, what's it with this dog? He said, it's not an ordinary dog. He's some great devotee, made some mistake in his previous life, and now he's staying here day and night, so that he can get the mercy of pure devotee, Srila Prabhupada. I said, this is a very special place, and this is a very special dog. So you see, Vrindavan is a magical place. There are very mysterious things happening there. Of course, today it's changed tremendously. It's huge. It's like a big city. It's like Delhi almost. And there's so many people there. But that magic is still there. And so anyway, Ramanujacharya, he was teaching surrender to the Lord. And therefore, he has a philosophy that's called the Vasishtadvaita. So what is a Vasishtadvaita? It's called specific monism. So there are different schools of philosophy amongst the Vaishnavas. His is one unique one where he's talking about specific monism. What does that mean exactly? Well, Ramanujacharya, Yamunacharya, and Kulashakar King are often quoted by Srila Prabhupada. That means there's a very close connection between Sri Vaishnavas and Gaudiya Vaishnavas. Otherwise, why would Prabhupada quote their acharyas? You know, and there are many, many quotes of Ramanujacharya and Yamunacharya and King Kulashakar. And so Ramanujacharya's Vasishtadvaita philosophy proves that merging into the material or spiritual energies does not lead to loss of individuality. So Ramanujacharya was actually very, very, let's say, adamant debunker of Sankaracharya's Sarirak Bhasya. In Sankaracharya's Sarirak Bhasya, before you read it, you believe you exist, your family exists, your car exists, the world exists. After you read it, you're convinced you don't exist, your family doesn't exist, the world doesn't exist. It's all an illusion. Just see how clever he was. He was able to convince, and he's still doing it today. You have 90+% of gurus in India who are Mayavadis. Is that true? Yeah. So it's still going on today. They think that I don't exist, you don't exist, this world doesn't exist, that the material nature doesn't exist, that Vaikuntha doesn't exist, Goloka doesn't exist, that Krishna doesn't exist. And if he appears in the material world, he has a material body like you and me. So this is called the original cancel culture. I don't know if you know this term in India. We use it a lot in America. What did Sankaracharya do? He canceled the whole material world. He canceled the existence of jivas. He canceled the whole spiritual world. And he canceled Krishna. So he's limiting us like this. It's down to one lifetime and no individuality. This is crazy, but yet people believe it. And your people believe it. A large number of people believe in this atheistic philosophy. Now, Sankaracharya was ordered to do this. He had to, some way or other, stop the Buddhists from continuing their Sunyavad philosophy. So he made a version of Sunyavad philosophy called Mayavad philosophy, but he reestablished the authority of the Vedas by doing that. And it diminished the influence of Buddhism in India. It almost became non-existent. Okay, now, this is called progressive movement. Spiritual life is progressive. Just like, let's say you go back to Vaikuntha. You can still progress in Vaikuntha. That's the nature of Krishna consciousness. It is not static. It's dynamic. And you can continue making spiritual progress even in the spiritual world. So, it's said that Krishna, or Sripada Ramanujacharya, he refers to the sutra called Aitareya Upanishad, Atmava Idam Agra Asid, which points out that the Supreme Atma, the Absolute Truth, existed before the creation. And one may argue, if the Supreme Personality of Godhead is completely spiritual, how is it possible that he is the origin of creation, and within him are both material and spiritual energies? This is a very good question. So it is said in the Taittiriya Upanishad, Yato Vayamani Bhutani, this mantra says that the entire cosmic manifestation emanates from the Absolute Truth, rests upon the Absolute Truth, and after annihilation again, re-enters the body of the Absolute Truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Krishna, Janmadasya Yata, is the source of everything, material and spiritual. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matak sarvam prabhartate iti matva bhajante mam buddhabhava samanvitaha. Krishna says, I am the source of everything material and spiritual. And one who knows this and who engages in devotional service, always thinking of me and dedicating all their activity to me, they come back to me. So we see that Ramanujacharya is saying basically the same thing, that everything emanates from Krishna, and the entire material world is made of his energies. He has internal energies, he has marginal energies, and he has external energies. They all belong to him. That means that everything we see in this world belongs to Krishna, right? That means Ishavaisham idam sarvam jadkinja jagat yam de jagat tena tak tena bunjitaha mahagritaha kasvasidhanam. Everything in the material world belongs to Krishna, and he has set aside for all living entities their minimal needs. If you take your minimal need and everything above that, you use it in the service of Krishna, you can live karma-free. Kurvan eva karma ni jiva chek chatam samaha evam tvayi nanyate tusti na karma lipyatena. Na karma lipyatena re. You can live very peacefully without performing any karma, either good or bad. Good or bad karma, both are bad, because you have to take birth again to get the results. So here we see that Krishna has set aside for every living entity their minimal needs. So therefore, Krishna consciousness is called minimalist lifestyle. That is, you start that when you become a brahmachari. Basically, all you own is a dhoti, a kurta, a chadar, and a bead bag and beads. That's it. You don't even have a bed, right? That's it. And it's a good way of life because it teaches you to be renounced. And you have to go out on Sankirtan every day, or you have to do all kinds of services. You have to wake up early, you have to take a bath, and you put on tilak, and you come to Mangal Arti, and in Mangal Arti you're jumping up and down, dancing, Hare Bol, right? This is a wonderful life, right? And it's good training, and you learn to be austere, and you learn to serve Gurudev, and you also accept Shiksha Gurus. They're instructing you all the time. So this life teaches you how to live the rest of your life, even if you get married. You always should be a minimalist. You accept the minimum, and of course, when you get married, the minimum goes up because you have a wife and you have kids, but still it should be regulated and it should be limited. And everything above the limit should be used in Krishna's service. Then you have no karma. Okay. So, this mantra, Yato Vayamani Bhutani, says that the entire cosmic manifestation emanates from Krishna, the Absolute Truth, rests upon the Absolute Truth, and after annihilation again re-enters the body of the Absolute Truth. And so The living entity is originally spiritual, and when he enters the spiritual world of the body, the Supreme, he still retains his individuality and his identity. So this is what's called Visistadvaita. Advaita means oneness, and Visista means you keep your individuality even though there's this oneness with the Lord. Now, if we come to Lord Chaitanya's Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva philosophy, that is, the Supreme Absolute Truth is simultaneously and inconceivably one and different, it gets even clearer. It's more precise. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with what Ramanujacharya said in Vasistadvaita, but Lord Chaitanya's Achintya Bheda Bheda Tattva is very, very concise and clear. That is, that the absolute truth in all realms, the spiritual world or the material world, is simultaneously one and inconceivably different. So what does that mean exactly? That means that what is the oneness with the Lord? Oneness is oneness by agreement. Just like in a family, if you respect Pitaji and Mataji, then whatever they say, you do. And that means there's oneness. Whether you meet the father or the son has the same opinion as the father and is always subordinate to him and will always follow him. So Sankaracharya tried to change the concept of oneness by saying there's only one soul. There are no jivas. It's illusion. There's only one soul. And when you merge into that one soul, you become that. Right? So that's called cancel culture. Is canceling everything and limiting you to a very small, tight type of reality that is unacceptable, because you don't think, you don't have desires, you have to give up all desires, you don't worship anyone, you are a non-person. So therefore Mayavadis fall down from Brahman realization very easily. As soon as they have the slightest desire, they fall down. Okay, so this is basically nonsense, and Ramanujacharya is one of the greatest defenders of Sanatana Dharma, and he wrote his Gita Bhasya, and he wrote the Bhasya on the Vedanta Sutra, and completely debunked everything Sankaracharya was saying. Now, Sankaracharya is actually a devotee, and a pure devotee, and of course, before he left his body, he said, Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govinda, Bhaja Govinda, Mudamate. He said, look, all you idiots, stop speculating. Just worship Govinda. No more nonsense, Nirakar, Nirakar, Nirakar. What do you mean, Nirakar? Yeah, nonsense. There's no such thing as Nirakar, right? But, that's what he said. So, and he told him, look, give this up. It's all nonsense. But they didn't listen because of Sadananda Yogendra, his number one disciple. He perpetuated this nonsense Mayavad philosophy, and it's still going on today. That shows how dangerous it is when you have disciples who try to be greater than the Guru. This is a very, very dangerous thing. Disciples should always be subordinate to the Guru. So if Sankaracharya's last words were Bhaja Govindam, and Sadananda Yogendra said, no, we believe in Nirakar, that means he deviated from his Guru. So when you deviate from the Guru, that's one of the worst things you can do in your life. Therefore, we should always be faithful to bona fide Shiksha and Diksha Gurus, because they're the one that taught us that, look, this life is not meant for sense gratification. It's meant for serving the Lord. And there's only one Supreme Personality of Godhead, that's Krishna. So there's Krishna. From Krishna comes Balaram. From Balaram comes the first Chaturvyuha, which is Sankara's son, Vasudeva, Sankara's son, Pradyumna and Aniruddha. Aniruddha and Pradyumna. And then from Sankara's son of the first Chaturvyuha comes Narayana. And from Narayana comes the second Chaturvyuha. And from the second Chaturvyuha, Sankara's son, comes the Vishnu incarnations, Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, and Kshirodakshay Vishnu. And from Kshirodakshay Vishnu comes so many incarnations like Varaha and Nrsimha and so forth. So this is, and we're talking about billions and trillions of expansions of Krishna, coming from Krishna to Balaram, and then Balaram is expanding all these plenary, partial plenary, and partial plenary expansions of the Lord. That this is mind-boggling because the numbers, I mean, Paramatma is present in every atom of the universe, and he's present in the hearts of every living entity. And on top of that, there's not just one universe, there's trillions of universes that are emanating from the body of Mahavishnu. Just imagine how big Mahavishnu is. Okay? So, what does this do? When we read Shastra correctly, it expands our consciousness. Most people, they live in what's called a very limited time-space module. Like you have these smaller cars here, right? How big is that? I don't even think it's 1 cubic yard, right? So people spend hours, fighting traffic in Delhi in their car. And then they go to their office, that's also small. Then they go to their home, and that's also small. You have small rooms, small kitchen, small bedroom. So because of the smallness of where you're spending time, most people don't go out in the open fields. They used to be farmers, and they used to be very happy. And India was a very rich country before the Muslims came and the British, and people were living in self-sufficient villages, and everyone was happy. Why do you think you have over 1 billion Hindus or people in Bharat? Because people were happy and prosperous, and why did people invade India? Like Alexander the Great invaded India, then Muhammad Ghazni invaded India, and then the British invaded India. Why did they come here? Why didn't they go to Siberia? No, because India was a rich country. It was the richest country in the world. Why? Because they followed Sanatan Dharma. They had faith that after death, there is something. You can go back to Godhead, or you can continue suffering in the material world in another body. So they had knowledge, even though they might have been illiterate. Still, the acharyas were preaching to them, just like the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavana. They lived with the common people. They didn't live in big palaces. They slept under trees every day, and they changed the tree, right? And they helped people. They helped solve their everyday problems. And they were always there. And plus, they knew how to deal with the Muslims. They were able to get granite and marble when it was not allowed. But they knew how to speak to the Muslims in Delhi, and they were able to build temples, right? So we should understand how important it is to be Krishna conscious. India before was Krishna conscious, but because of basically, it was not simply the brutality of the Muslims. What really has hurt India was the subtle demoniac programs of the British. They're worse than the Muslims because they took over the educational system in India in 1820s, and they had a strategy. Their strategy was to conquer this country, we have to destroy their culture. And they were expert at doing that. And they took over the educational system. And because of that, they began to teach about Western science, European science. Actually, it's not science, it's junk. Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita are science. Now, what does science mean? Science means that it's fact. It's true in the past, it's true in the present, and it's true in the future. And it's true in all places, everywhere in the material world and the spiritual world. That is what real science is. Today, there's no science, there's junk. They just have theories, and the theories, most of them are wrong, and because of that, they keep changing the theories all the time. But Bhagavad Gita hasn't changed, right? It was spoken 120 million years ago, then spoken again 2 million years ago, and then spoken again 5,000 years ago. It's the same Bhagavad Gita, Yatarup. It hasn't changed. Of course, Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, all the other Bhagavad Gitas, they're Bhagavad Gita as I wish it to be, or I hope it will be, or this or that. It's nonsense. So, the British destroyed India with their educational system, and they taught the Indians, just like one Brahmana went to England, one of Parthasarthi Thakur's disciples, and he was speaking to Lord Jetland, and Lord Jetland said, "Well, Swami, why have you come here?" He said, "Well, we've come here to teach the British people to be Krishna conscious." He said, "What do you mean by Krishna consciousness?" He said, "Well, we give up certain things, they're called yamas, and we teach other things that we should do, they're called niyamas." He said, "What are they?" He said, "Well, the yamas are things you should never do. No meat eating, no murgi." You know, people think murgi is all right? No, it's not. And no illicit sex, and no gambling, and no intoxication, including coffee and tea. Of course, before the British came, no Indian drank tea. They drank lassi, right? But the British come to teach the Indians how to drink tea. What happened to the Indians? They all have diabetes. They all have BP. They all are getting cardiac problems, right? So this is the British curse on Indians. But anyway, that's another subject. We'll talk about that later. So you see, what happened was that little by little, they had to destroy Sanatana Dharma. They had to destroy the culture of India. And it's still going on. It hasn't stopped. Liberation didn't stop it. In fact, it's gotten worse, right? So, what is the solution to this? Why do you think Prabhupada brought his white elephants from America and Europe to India? Why didn't he just stay and spread the movement in the West? Because he knew that if the Sanatana Dharma is destroyed in India, that'll destroy the whole world. And he brought his disciples back, and they started doing Harinam Sankirtan, and doing festivals, and then building temples, and it's still going on. And your Gopal Krishna Maharaj has, 17 temples in Delhi, and that's not enough. You can have 100 temples in Delhi, you know. Right. So we have a big job. You have a big job. Even though you're young, you might think, well, how are we going to do this? Well, how did they do this, right? They did this by depending on Krishna, not depending on modern science, not depending on speculation. The world is an illusion, it doesn't exist. So what do people do? They go and end up in a dark cave in the Himalayas meditating so they can be liberated personally. That's how selfish the Mayavad philosophy is. That's how selfish all these meditators are. They want their own liberation. But we want everyone to be liberated. That's why you're going out on Sankirtan, right? So you have to understand what this mission is about. It's about spreading the glories of Lord Krishna. And if you do it sincerely, you will go back to Godhead in this lifetime. Yeah. So, therefore, let me see something else here I want to talk about. We got two audiences. So, this Krishna consciousness philosophy, whether it's Ramanujacharya or Lord Chaitanya, it includes the whole Vaishnava philosophy. When we speak of Krishna, the very word means Rama, the Shringa, and Vamana, and Varaha, and all other similar expansions and incarnations of the Lord. So, Krishna consciousness includes also Vaikuntha consciousness. But Vaikuntha consciousness does not include Krishna consciousness. This is where we're going to see a difference between the Sri Vaishnavas and the Gaudiya Vaishnavas. So, those who are strictly following the rules and regulations of Vaishnava activities, they're promoted to the Vaikuntha lokas. But those who have developed a spontaneous love for Krishna, they go to Krishna loka. Now, I'm not criticizing Vaishnavism here now. I'm just explaining how the progression can happen even in the spiritual world, and from this material world to the spiritual world. There is a difference between Vaikuntha and Goloka. Now, Goloka, you're liberated eternally. There's no question about that. And Vaikuntha and Goloka also, you're liberated eternally. Once you fell down, why? How do you fall down? Well, the jiva is called marginal energy. So marginal means you're on the line where one side is Maya and the other side is Krishna. So because you're so close to the Maya side, it is possible that you could become attracted to something in the material world. So we all start in Vaikuntha, but because we're marginal, we're very close to that marginal line that separates the two, and we became attracted by something in the material world, and we fell down. What is it basically that people are attracted to? Sense gratification. Because what's the difference between Goloka and or the spiritual world and the material world? In the material world, people are working for their own sense gratification. In the spiritual world, everyone's working for Krishna's satisfaction. So we use our senses, our mind, our intelligence to please Krishna's senses, Krishna's desires. So that's the difference. Now, sometimes people say, wow, why is he the only one that dances with the gopis? Why can't I dance with the gopis? Well, you see idiots like Dridha Gorilla. He thought, let me dance with the gopis. What happened? He was killed right away. See? You can't touch the gopis. So we see this. So what's your only possibility? You have to fall down the material world, and you can go around and try and take advantage of women. Now, women in modern times now, there's always been Purusha and Prakriti. Purusha means the enjoyer, and Prakriti means the enjoyed. So traditionally, men think that when I get married, I'm going to enjoy my wife. She's going to listen to what I say, and this and that. Just like one time a lady called me up and said, Prabhuji, please come to my house and do puja. I said, puja? What's the purpose of the puja? She said, my husband and I are arguing all the time. I said, well, I think it's better you and your husband come to the temple, and we can teach you to be like Sita Devi, and we'll teach your husband to be like Ram. You know what she said? I don't want to be like Sita. I said, well, then the puja won't work either. So another time, a different lady came up to me and said that, Prabhuji, I want to speak to you. I said, okay, what is it? She said, when I got married, I was convinced my husband is like Ram. Now 3 months I've been married, and I know he is Ravana. Now, you don't want to make that mistake in your life, right? You have to be very careful, because two major decisions you have to make in your life. who you're going to marry and who you're going to accept as guru. If you make 2 times mistake, you're really in trouble. Even if you make 1 mistake, you're really in trouble. So therefore, an initiated devotee should never make a big decision without asking their guru's advice. This is absolutely imperative. If you make decisions on your own, no matter how many times you read Bhagavad Gita, no matter if you're Bhakti Shastri, Bhakti Vaibhava, Bhakti Vedanta, you can make mistakes. So therefore, you should always refer to Guru and Shiksha and Diksha Guru to get advice, especially making big decisions in your life. So anyway, it says, those who have developed a spontaneous love for Krishna, they're promoted to Krishna Loka. And those who want to worship with awe and reverence Lord Narayana, they're restricted. Restricted in what way? In Goloka, Yoga Maya is acting. So it puts people in illusion, but the illusion by which they come closer to Krishna. In the material world is Mahamaya. She puts people in illusion so they can go farther away from Krishna. In order to engage in sense gratification, you have to forget Krishna completely. You have to forget Krishna. And Krishna says, Sarvasacham Hridi Sanivisto Matak Smitir Jnanam Apahanam Cha. I am present in everyone's heart, and from me comes knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. So, if you're thinking, if outside you have the tilak on, you have your bead bag, you're chanting, you're going on Sankirtan, but inside you have the mind is turning and seeing things, and you're thinking, oh, I would like this, I would like that, I want to do this, I want to do that. Now, Krishna's in the heart. He knows exactly what you're thinking, what all of us are thinking and desiring. So therefore, if you cannot get that out of your mind, that desire for sense gratification, Krishna says, okay, I tried my best, but you're absolutely adamant, you're not stopping, there's thoughts in the mind, therefore I will help you. I'll help you fall down by giving you forgetfulness. Just like Ravana and Ravana and Kumbhakarna, they did, all 3 of them did tapasya. So Ravana eventually, Lord Brahma came and said, what is it you want? You're doing such terrible tapasya. He said, I want to be Amara. I said, no, I can't give you that. I'm not Amara. How can I give you something I don't have? So then he negotiated with Brahma, and he thought that, he can't be killed in the sky, he can't be killed on the ground, he can't be killed in the day, he can't be killed at night, he can't be killed by any Rakshasa or Devata. He thought he was invincible. He forgot to talk about human beings, right? And anyway, and then he got all these blessings, and the Devatas freaked out. And they went to Brahma. I said, look, Brahma, you gave Ravana all these advantages, and that's going to be terrible. But now you're going to give to Kumbhakarna. Kumbhakarna is more dangerous than Ravana. So you have to do something. You can't do this twice. I mean, I don't know if we can deal with Ravana, but we know we can't deal with Kumbhakarna. So he said, okay, I'll do something. So he got Saraswati's help. So when he said, okay, what you want, Kumbhakarna? So instead of saying Indrasin, accidentally he said Nidrasin. That is, Indrasin means that he's going to have the position of Indra, right? But instead of saying Indra, he had a lisp or something, he said Nidra. That means that he said, okay, tatastu, and he fell asleep. And he only wakes up 1 day a year. And even that is not a full day. So you see how easily we can make mistakes, especially if we have a nightclub in the brain. You know what a nightclub is? You know what nightclub is? That's a place you go for drinking liquor, engaging in sex, gambling, and eating meat. Do you have places like that in Delhi? You say? Huh? Delhi, Mumbai, all these places. So, if that nightclub is in your brain, then it's the same thing, whether you're in the nightclub or not. Okay, so is it time to stop? Huh? Okay. Is that the amplifier or something else? Are they doing some construction outside? Is that Kumbhakarna? That I said something about him. Okay, so Krishna consciousness is spontaneous love for Krishna, and Narayana consciousness is following strict rules and regulations. You cannot come very close. Like one time I went to Tirupati and I was given special darshan. So, instead of getting 30 seconds and then they push you, let me stay there for as long as I want. And someone went like this, one of the priests. So I thought he meant he wanted to go into the sanctum, over the barrier to go in, and they freaked out completely. They said, no, you can't come in here. You see, it's very strict, the worship of Narayana. And it's formalized. It's very formal. But however, Yoga Maya is is not. By the way, Yoga Maya is not in Vaikuntha. Yoga Maya is acting in two places: in Goloka and in the material world. See, so anyway, when you come to Goloka, yet Mother Yasoda doesn't know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If she did, then she wouldn't be able to spank him or tie him up or anything like that, right? Or punish him or scare him. So you have Yoga Maya acting there, and it brings people closer to Krishna. Okay, so and there's no regulative principles because everybody loves Krishna completely. See? So there's what you would call absolute freedom. Okay, so then some other points I wanted to make. I want to tell a story about Ramanujacharya. He was the most successful of all the Sri Vaishnava acharyas. He was the most successful. He used to travel with 1,000 sannyasis and 300 women renunciates. He used to go village to village in South India and Tamil Nadu and maybe other places also. So they came to one village one time where Ramanujacharya had two disciples. One was a very poor brahmana. Well, let's put it like this. All brahmanas are supposed to have a vow of poverty. They're not supposed to have gold chains and Rolexes and BMWs and eating and a big tummy like this and eating tons of food and passing tons of stool. That is not a brahmana. Brahmanas are usually very, very let's say strict in their diet and their habits, right? And they're not looking for luxuries. They're looking for a very simple life, right? Mostly brahmanas, how do they exist? First of all, they give free education in the villages, and they don't take money for it. And if they have one moringa tree and one cow, that's enough. The moringa tree, you can eat the leaves. It's like spinach, and every part of the moringa tree is useful. You have the pods, you can eat those. Then you have the bark for medicine. So moringa tree solves your problem for vegetables and let's say medicine, and then the cow gives you milk. So that's enough for the brahmana and his wife. They live very simply. So anyway, he had one Brahmana family that were his disciple, and he had a rich Banya who was a disciple also. So when he came there, he was supposed to go to both places, right? So the Banya made a huge, very opulent prasadam for him, food for him, and was waiting for him to come there. And the Brahmana, of course, he didn't have much money at all. He, was not really able to do anything. He was out begging that day, and his wife was alone at home. So Ramanujacharya, he decided not to go to the Banya's house, although it's his disciple, but he didn't go there. He went to see the poor Brahmana first. And when he knocked on the door, the Brahmana's wife was taking a bath. So she yelled, "Who is it?" And one of his disciples said, "It's Ramanujacharya, your Gurudev has come to see you." And she was like shocked. And she didn't have, even a cloth to put on. But she got so excited, she ran to the door and opened it up, and then Ramanujacharya saw her like that. He took off his chadar and put it on her, right? She was so excited. And she said, "Oh, please come in, Gurudev." And he said, "Yes, we wanted to take some prasadam." Oh, she said, okay, you just sit here, I'll be back and I'll make prasadam for you. Now, her husband was out begging, right? So she ran to the local grocer, and he was always trying to seduce her. And he knew she was poor, and he would offer her free things sometimes, and he would try and get her to submit to him, but she never did. So she went to him and said, "Listen, you give me whatever I ask you for. I'm going to need vegetables, I'm going to need some milk and other things. I have to make a feast. After I offer this feast to my Gurudev, I'll come back, you do whatever you want with me." And he was like happy. He said, "Oh, yes, now you're talking." So he gave her whatever she wanted. She went home and cooked a very nice feast and pleased her guru. In the meantime, the husband came and he was shocked. And he went to his wife and he said, "Well, where did you get all this from?" And she explained, "Look, I went to the grocer. He's a very lusty man. I told you about him before. But I agreed to give myself to him if he would give me these things to please Gurudev." He said, okay, I understand why you did it. Let's not say anything. So Ramanujacharya and his devotees were well fed, and they were very pleased. And then it came time for her to go to the grocer, and the husband said, "Let me come with you. But first, let's talk to Gurudev and tell him what the situation is." So they explained it to Ramanujacharya. He said, "Okay, you go and see him, but you take some of the remnants from the prasad that I ate, and you say that I have sent this to him to eat." They said, "Okay." So they go and see the grocer. Now the grocer is a little embarrassed because he didn't expect the husband to come, right? And so they both go and see him, and the grocer is a little uneasy about the whole thing. And the husband said, "Please don't think that I am here for anything other than to give you my wife. But first, our Gurudev, he came. That's why she came to you, and he gave us some of his remnants." Prasad, and he offers it to you, and he would like you to eat it. He said, "Oh, okay." So he ate the prasadam, and then the husband was going to leave, and the grocer said, "Look, don't leave. Maybe I have to rethink this. Your wife is a very chaste woman, and now I understand why she came to me. But I would like to go and see your Gurudev. So they take him, they go back, and he is blessed by Ramanujacharya. Not only he got his prasadam, but he also did not defile the chaste woman, and he got to see a pure devotee. So this is very important. It shows that, well, anyway, at that point the Banya came and he was upset, and he said to Ramanujacharya, "Why didn't you come to my house? I had a big feast for you." He said, "Well, did you bring any of that feast here?" He said, "Well, I can bring some of it now." So he brought some of that, and Ramanuja got some of the feast that he ate from the chaste woman, and he got some of the feast from the Banya, and he squeezed them both in his hand, and from the Banya's feast, blood came out, and from the lady's feast, ghee came out. And he said, "You see the difference? From your food, blood is coming out, and from her food, ghee is coming out. That's why I came here." Hare Bol. So, beware, not everything is prasadam. One time I did a puja in some lady's house, and after the puja, she said, "Prabhu, please have some prasad." I said, "Okay." I asked her, "Did you cook it?" She said, "No." I said, "Where did you get it from?" "We got it from the Taj Mahal restaurant." I said, "Taj Mahal restaurant. Okay. Do you know the name of the cook?" She said, "Yeah, his name is Ahmed." I said, "Okay. I don't think I can eat that prasad." Now, that just proves that everything is not prasad. Prasad is very special. It has to be made by a pure person who really wants to please the Lord, and is offered with genuine prayers, and it's offered back as prasad. It's not Ahmed, who's eating meat, who's going to make prasad. So be very careful. You should never eat anything that hasn't been offered first correctly and has the right ingredients also to Krishna. Because prasadam is a magical, transcendental food. It will purify your heart. In fact, in Bhagavad Gita, and this is the last thing I'll talk about and finish, Bhagavad Gita 9th chapter 26th verse, what does Prabhupada say? Patram pushpam phalam tuyam yomi bhakta prachati tadham bhati bharatam asnami payatatsam. So he says, offer me with love and devotion a leaf, water, fruit, and flower, and I will accept it. Let's see what Prabhupada says in the purport. He says, for the intelligent person, it is essential to be in Krishna consciousness, engaged in the transcendental loving service of the Lord, in order to achieve a permanent, blissful abode for eternal happiness. The process of achieving such a marvelous result is very easy. What? It's very easy. Did you hear that? He said it's very easy, and can be attempted even by the poorest of the poor, without any kind of qualification. The only qualification required in this connection is to be a pure devotee of the Lord. It does not matter what one is or where one is situated. The process is so easy. He said it 2 times now, right? So easy that even a leaf or a little water or fruit can be offered to the Supreme Lord in genuine love, and the Lord will be pleased to accept it. Now, does he need the leaf or the flower or the fruit or the water? No, he doesn't need it. What he's looking for is your love. Now, love is a very strange thing. Today, most people think love is lust. But that's not the definition of love. Love is pure dedication for the Lord. Lust is dedication to oneself or one's own lusty desires. So it says, No one, therefore, can be barred from Krishna consciousness because it is so easy and universal. Who is such a fool that he does not want to be Krishna conscious by this simple method and thus attain the highest perfection of life of eternity, bliss, and knowledge? Krishna wants only loving service and nothing more. Krishna accepts even a little flower from his pure devotee. He does not want any kind of offering from a non-devotee. He is not in need of anything from anyone because he is self-sufficient. So, now you know Krishna consciousness is very easy. It's Kumbhakarna. It's very easy, and anyone can become Krishna conscious. The lowest dacoit can become Krishna conscious. Why? Because surrender to Krishna is not controlled by the laws of karma. That's the one thing that's not controlled by the laws of karma. Anyone, look at Vibhishan, he's a Rakshasa, he has Rakshasa blood. He looks like a Rakshasa. But he came and surrendered to Krishna, and Sugriva and Hanuman, they were very, not Hanuman, but Sugriva, he was thinking he shouldn't do this. And Lakshman also said he shouldn't do it. But when Rama accepted Vibhishan, Rama said, anyone who bows down in front of me and asks for mercy, I will give it to him. Hanuman became very happy. He said, this is the right thing. So you are doing the right thing by going on Sankirtan and giving people a chance to have some prasadam, to have genuine philosophy that Prabhupada has given, and to hear the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and to dance. Dance, Prabhupada said, this two-step, Prabhupada two-step. This is science, right? With your arms up and smiling and jumping. This is science. This means you're ready to go back to Godhead in this lifetime. So I'll stop there. There's so many things we could say, but are there any questions anyone would like to ask? Yes, sir. Do you have a microphone so you can hear what he says? Okay.
Hare
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
You have to turn it on. You have to turn it on. Yes. Yes. Let me ask you a question. Vyasadeva is writing a Shastra for the next age. Does he have a microphone? Does he have a computer? No, it's the same point. It's the same point. See? You can do that, yes. We can use everything in Krishna's service. The computer also. But let's say the Pakistanis throw an atomic bomb on Delhi, right? And now all those things are going to be destroyed. Does that mean you can't function? No, you can function still. But people for millions of years in Bharat did not have those computers and airplanes and I don't know, whatever, beer, whatever, but they excelled. So we have, you in the Sanatana Dharma, you have transcendental knowledge, how to, see, here's the thing. We pray every day to Krishna. Krishna has his demigods who are in charge of all the necessities that people need, like the air, the rain, the sun, etc. So when you are living a Sanatana Dharma life, the Devatas help you because they're ordered by Krishna. Look, they're following Sanatana Dharma. Now, make it easy that there's regular rain, regular change of seasons, that they can easily grow their crops. See, all these problems are because people are engaging in sinful activity. You stop all that, then the devas will cooperate with you. You don't have to have a tunnel into the earth to get gold. The Bhumi Devi will bring it up on the ground, and the pearls and the different necessities. See, previously people were not working hard because they were cooperating with Krishna, and Krishna was ordering the devas to give them whatever they needed. That's the culture we want to go back to. We don't want to go to this junk culture. By the way, factories, before only the demons were manufacturing things. No devotee was manufacturing. They didn't need it. And by the way, most of the things that are manufactured are junk. You don't need those things. Just like one time, there was this advertisement in the television of a chair. And one lady was sitting in this chair, and she had a remote control, and went zzz, and her feet went up. And as the zzz, her feet went up, she smiled. And then she went zzz, and her feet went down. And I told the people in the class about this, and I said, this chair is nonsense, complete nonsense. And everyone was laughing. And then after 30 seconds or so, the laughing stopped. But one lady kept laughing, Mrs. Patel. She didn't stop laughing. I said, Mrs. Patel, I said, why are you laughing so much? She said, my husband just bought that chair. You see, this advertisement is killing people. They're buying things they don't need. You don't need any of these things. Okay, now you can use them. Yes, we will use the microphone. But Prabhupada spoke about the microphone. He said, now we're speaking in the microphone. He said, but we don't actually need it. I can speak without the microphone. He actually said that. If you want, I'll show you where he said it. So don't think that this is a permanent thing. All these things can go away very quickly. There can be a collapse of the of world, due to war and pestilence, just like you had COVID, right? A lot of things collapsed overnight. So there can be other things that happen, like earthquakes and things. The whole thing can collapse because it's all artificial. It's not real. But if you cooperate with Krishna, then Krishna will tell the devatas to cooperate with you. Everything becomes easy. That's our science. That's our science. Okay, any other questions? Yes, sir. Next. Go ahead. Don't say that. Just ask the question. Vasishtha Advaita, yes. That, of course, is not true, but go ahead. Well, let me explain why it's not true, okay? And then you can continue your question. He's controlling your body, but he's not controlling your desire. He's controlling your body. You don't know how your body is functioning, right? He's controlling nature. He's controlling everything except one thing. Your desires. So, but he tells you, look, 5,000 years ago, he clearly said in Bhagavad Gita, don't eat meat, don't gamble, don't have illicit sex, don't engage in intoxication. Fast forward to today, those four things are part of the culture. In America, it's part of the culture. In India, it's part of the culture. And what's happening because of that? People are unnecessarily suffering and dying. You know how many people die of overdoses of drugs? a year. In America, it's 1 million people die every year from overdoses of taking drugs. You know how many people die of eating meat in a year? At least 1.5 million people die from eating meat because they have cancer or they have heart attack and things like that. Because meat causes 25 different diseases. Right? Now, you know how many people die from illicit sex? You know how many STDs, communicable diseases there are, sexual communicable diseases? There's a whole list like this, of communicable diseases, starting with AIDS and HIV, coming down to chlamydia and so many diseases, right? So at least 600,000 or more people die of these communicable diseases in a year in the United States. Now the statistics are even bigger in India. India has much bigger population than America. You don't realize why so many people are dying here. They're dying because of meat eating, gambling, illicit sex, and intoxication. Right? And Krishna warned everybody 5,000 years ago, don't do it. How is it that they're doing it? It's called tamas, ignorance. The educational system in this country is junk. Look at what the Muslims do here. They're allowed to teach Quran to their kids in school. The Christians are allowed to teach Bible in school. Are Hindus allowed to hear Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam in school? Does that sound fair? Does that sound normal? No. You're living in Bharat, you can't even teach your kids in school religion. This is nonsense. You see? This is complete nonsense. Something has to change, otherwise you're going to lose this country. And that's why the Muslims are openly saying, look, all the Hindus can go out of India. This land's going to belong to us now. They're openly talking like that. They're not afraid to say it. They have maps of India where Christians show where they are in control and the Muslims show where they're in control. So, if you don't come back to Sanatana Dharma, you're going to lose this country. I'm not a member of the RSS, okay? I'm just speaking facts. Any other questions? Yes. Yes. No, in the material world also. Yes. No, Yoga Maya is to help you come closer to Krishna. And Mahamaya will take you away from Krishna. Now, it all depends on your desire. Everything depends on what's going on in your mind. If you are attracted to material things, it could be a beautiful woman, it could be a nice car, it could be a house, it could be so many things, it could be a watch. That attraction, you have the right to say, I want this thing. So then, because you want it so much, Krishna will help you get it, even if it's not good for you. Because man proposes, God disposes. You have heard that before? That means you're proposing something. I want this woman, or I want this man. Okay, if that's what you want. But rather, it would be better to say, I want Krishna. I want, Krishna to be with me all the time. I want to be with Krishna all the time. Then Krishna will help you. But if you want material things, Krishna will also help you because you have limited free will. You have two choices by limited free will. Either you accept Krishna or you reject Krishna. Either way, Krishna knows what's going to happen to you. Either way. But because surrender to Krishna is not controlled by the laws of karma, at any moment you can surrender to him, even if you're the worst person in the world. That's what you should focus on. Haribol. Okay, we'll stop there. I know everyone wants to eat. Prasadam. Haribol. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Yeah, there's a few books. There's a book that I wrote, defending Prabhupada's words, because there are some people now that want to change things because they say he wrote some homophobic and misogynist things in his books. Of course, only crazy Americans say things like that. I don't think you say that here. I hope not. So this is a book that addresses all the so-called homophobic and misogynistic things, so-called things that Prabhupada wrote.
You are giving it free?
Giving it free, yes.
You are giving it free?
Yeah, you can share it also with people that are not going to get one. No, don't say that. Say Srila Prabhupada ki. Very good. Thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Yesterday got I read 2 pages.
Yeah.
Somebody gives Sadhu.
Yeah.
Some question